Thank you very much, Mr. Palmer. First of all, I just wanted to welcome all of you to what is our final grade 12 parent meeting of the 2014-15 school year. And before we know it, we'll be into the graduation festivities. Thanks so much for your presence here this evening. I don't have much to share with you, but I did want to make a point of letting you know how incredibly proud I am of your sons, and I hope that you are proud of them as well. From my perspective as headmaster, from really day one, they have set an incredibly positive tone for senior school. They have played a really positive leadership role, and I think, touch wood, the success of the school year thus far to a large extent stems from them and the role modeling they have provided for the younger boys. They're not perfect, but for 160 17 and 18-year-olds, they're pretty darn close to it. So I hope that you are just as proud of them as I am. The other thing I was going to comment on is they've been successful in so many different ways, not just in the role modeling, which I've already talked about, but also in their high level of engagement and commitment and involvement academically and in a wide range of co-curriculars, including athletics. And the success is also reflected, I think, in the success of the university admissions results thus far. And I want to make the point that for me, the success of university admissions at St. George's has nothing to do with Ivy League acceptances. For me, it's all about fit, as you know. Every boy is different. And I think the success of our university counseling program and of your boys' applications is reflected in the incredible diversity, the wide range of programs and schools and colleges and universities to which they have been offered acceptance. For me, that's the real measure of success. And finally, three things I want to help you out. I want you to help me out with, please. I need a favor or two. The first is to do what you can to help us keep your sons on track. No matter how close to perfect they might be, every grad class, to one extent or another, suffers from what Mr. Lawrence calls senioritis. And that's reflected sometimes in intermittent attendance, getting behind on assignments, and things of that sort. It's really, really important that we do keep them on track. And I've made this comment to the boys, but my aspiration for them is they'll be the first grad class in my time as headmaster, which is I think about 15 years, where boys don't lose places in the summer because they mess up academically. Every summer, Ms. Wessler can confirm this wherever she might be, she and or I receive frantic phone calls and email messages from boys and parents because boys have lost places at universities. They've been told, you know, your English mark can't fall below 80. And lo and behold, the boy gets 64% on his English 12 exam, and his average falls below 80. And I must tell you, it's really hard in mid-August to find an alternate place for any student. So whatever we can do to keep them on track, both academically and in terms of general deportment behavior, would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. The second thing is to encourage your sons to express their sincere appreciation, preferably face-to-face, to the individuals here at St. George's who have had a positive impact on them during their time at the school. And Ms. Wessler and her team is a good place to start. They put in countless hours supporting boys in the university application process. But for Mr. Lawrence, the faculty, coaches, staff, whoever it is, touched your son in a positive, significant way. Encourage him to convey his gratitude. And then the third and most important thing is just to enjoy the remaining months. Don't get stressed about university applications or acceptances. Yes, help us keep your sons on track, but enjoy the remaining few months, and in particular, the graduation weekend, which for me is a highlight of the entire school year. It's an extraordinary, amazing experience, and make the most of that. And let me turn things over to my younger, better-looking, smarter brother, Sean Lawrence. Sir?
He is good-looking, isn't he? I would also like to welcome people who are joining us online. Do we have thousands out there watching the show, Mr. Hesketh? Okay, directly to those parents, if you live a block or two away, turn off the TV. Get down here right now. I noticed a parent and a student running down. I think they were actually here for the Discovery program, and they've probably headed to other. I can only imagine there are a few grade 12 parents down there listening to the show on the outdoor education. Is this it for the rest of the year? You know, these field trips, but. Anyways, folks, I'll be very brief just to add a welcome. Are you doing all right? Everybody's going to be all right? We do have a counseling program with St. George's Withdrawal Because I'm serious. Year after year, I'm always amazed at the parents who turn to us and kind of, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm missing the school. I'm just, thinking of June is getting me nervous and so on, but you will get through it. Besides, we want you involved with the school for decades. We want your grandsons here. So please do enjoy the remaining months. How many lifers out there wave? We've got a few lifers. Wow, fantastic. Fantastic. And how many since grade 8 joined us in grade 8 onwards? And boy, the years zipped by, didn't they? We warned the boys in late August, early September that they've got to really enjoy this final year because it will zip by. And it's a special year for me as well because I kind of graduate with your boys retiring this year. So I'm certainly looking forward to the celebrations in June as well. But certainly do enjoy it. You're going to get great information tonight, and you've got such a wonderful supportive team here. And I'll hand it over to them, and they'll certainly provide you with important information. I'm sure they can answer any questions you have, and certainly our doors are always open too. If you question pops into your head over the next few days, our doors are always open, so reach out to us, and we're sure we can help you. So enjoy the rest of the year, folks. Oh, I'm supposed to introduce Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins, come on up.
So what I want to do is just to walk you through some of the academic pieces towards the end of the year. We'll talk about things like exams and scholarships and graduation requirements. So everybody, or most students, not all, but lots of students in grade 12 need to write the English 12 provincial exam, which is on June 19th, which is Friday, which is actually after graduation. So as Dr. Matthews mentioned, it's not a good thing when somebody gets unadmitted because he decided the English exam was not we don't really care about it. It counts for 40% of his final mark, so it's an important exam. So that's the keep on track message. Some students have written the provincial exam last year, I forget, maybe 15 or 20. So they will be free after the internal exam period. And the last bit was, that students have done 5 provincial exams in their time through St. George's. And I think that everybody has done Socials 11 by now. There's usually 1 or 2 grade 12s who end up not doing it in grade 11, but I think we picked up the last Socials 11 guys in the January session, so I think we're okay there. Exam results are available around the end of July, so if you remember back to the Socials 11 results, Socials 10, you don't get them mailed to you. You need to log into your account on the ministry website in order to get them. You're allowed to rewrite exams within 1 year. I guess most grade 12s aren't going to bother rewriting if they've finished everything and it's what they need. You can actually request your exam to be remarked if you want, and you can get a form probably from us. It's quicker than waiting to rewrite. If you rewrite, you'd have to wait until August, which is too late for anything anyhow, really, for grade 12s. There's money available for writing the provincial exam. So there's a provincial scholarship. It's based on student scores on the 5 provincial exams. The criteria, I'll put it on the next page. The criteria are fairly generous. They're worth $1,000, and it comes in the form of a voucher that gets mailed to you, and then you can submit that to the university. What happens is the criteria for the provincial exams for the provincial scholarships aren't super rigorous. The ministry changed them a few years ago, and I was thinking that's not very rigorous. A lot of students will qualify for that. So then they changed it that you had to be within the top 5,000 students in the province. But I think lots of St. George's students still do get these scholarships, and it's $1,000 that goes directly to university. So that's one possibility. Other exams are advanced placement exams. So advanced placement exams on the dates that are up there. You can find out the specific dates on the College Board site. To get your provincial exam results, you need to log on to that website up there and create an account with the College Board if you haven't already done so. I find that there's more grade 11s and grade 12s write provincial exams, with grade 11s often using the scores for university applications. Results not available till the middle of July. It doesn't play a huge role for grade 12 students. So we always have more grade 11s and grade 12s write the AP exams. We do have internal exams as well, basically for most of our academic courses. June 5th to 11th, we don't have any grade 12 internal exams on the day of their prize day, which is June 12th, so they can have that whole day to get ready for the graduation ceremony, prize day. And the dates and the times are on the school's website. Mr. Ziff being so efficient, they've been up there since January or something like that. Internal exams are worth about 25% of a student's course final mark for those subjects. So they play a role as well. I mean, not as much as the 40% English 12 exam, but they do play a role. We don't want to double examine students. So what we've said is that for AP courses, since students have the opportunity to write the AP exam, we're not going to inflict an internal exam on them as well. I think the second bullet up there is the important one, which is another one of those keep on task type messages. The AP exam doesn't signal the end of our St. George's AP course, so students are meant to be back in their classes after the May exam session and working in those classes up until classes end on about June the 4th. Often some classes will be working on project type activities during that time, but AP classes are in session even after the AP exam is finished. Another way that students can earn money for university is through what used to be called the District Scholarship, and then it was called the Dogwood District Scholarship, and now it's changed its name for a third time to the District/Authority Awards. Provincial scholarships happen automatically. The ministry just takes the top 5,000 people who qualify for those and sends them $1,000. Students need to apply for the district scholarships, and the categories are up there. The application deadline is in a week. Students have started applying already. And what we have is we have an adjudication evening towards the end of April, and it's actually a really cool evening because we have a lot of talented young people here, often showing off their work in the fine arts area, but there's all of those other areas as well. So what students need to do is apply, come on the evening of April 20th, and either show their artwork, meet and have an interview with different people for some of the other categories, and then we make decisions based on that. At St. George's, we announced the winners of the, I'll call it the District Authority Awards on Prize Day. These awards consist of $500 that a voucher for the university in the same manner as the provincial scholarships, but they also have the interesting piece of a $500 check. So that's how the $1,000 of those comes together. You can read that up there. What happens is the number of these awards that are available are based on the number of students in our area. There's probably about 100 available for the Vancouver area. Traditionally, St. George's students do really well for these district scholarships, so it's worthwhile applying. And I guess the third thing that's available for money from the ministry is a program that's called the Passport to Education. You may have heard us speak about it before. Students have had the opportunity to earn a stamp, and it's really a physical little booklet, and they send stamps to the school. It's based mostly on marks, and students have the opportunity to earn a stamp in grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. The ministry is phasing out this program, so the last students to get Passport to Education stamps are your sons, and so the grade 12 stamp will be the last stamps that are awarded for the Passport to Education. So we have these physical booklets, and we'll mail them to you probably in the middle of the summer. The thing with the Passport to Education is the number of stamps that are available at St. George's is based on the total student enrollment in grade 12. So we're looking, last year we had about 25 stamps. St. George's is a pretty big pond, and there's some pretty strong students at the top end. So if you count down 25, you're still looking at some really strong students. So there's some strong students at St. George's who may have got a passport stamp at another school that doesn't have such a high top end, but might not get a stamp here. So that booklet will automatically arrive. We'll mail that to you. If you don't get one, you can phone and see just how things played out. And it might be that students, it's not an all or nothing deal, so students may have had a stamp in grade 10, but not in grade 11, and then a stamp in grade 12, so, or they may have had all 3 stamps. So all of those are possibilities. You can check on the ministry website, and I find their website's pretty good for finding information on. And on the ministry website, you can find out details about these awards. You can also find out universities to which students can take the vouchers that they get. And the vouchers are actually really portable. They can go to lots of universities and not only Canadian universities. So to find out those details, you can just go on the ministry website and find that. I have 2 more things to mention to you. All students by now should have filled out what's called a PSI form. They do that by logging onto their account on the ministry website, and the PSI form tells universities where to send their final marks. I think the university counselors have been checking that the students have actually put the universities on there that they've applied to or that have been accepted to. For U.S. universities, for example, the admissions to the university will take place based on the St. George's transcript, but the university still needs the ministry transcript to get sent to them to confirm graduation. So it's important that students do their PSI form, but as I said, I think the university counselors have been following up with them to make sure that they're done and they're correct. And the last piece is the bottom bullet here, which is called Graduation Transitions, Daily Physical Activity. At St. George's, we have a class that's called Planning Transitions 12, and it's a half-year course. We use that as structured time to help students meet a graduation requirement that's called Graduation Transitions. If you remember, way back in grade 10, students did Planning 10 on a pull-out basis from PE, but they didn't cover off all the learning outcomes in Planning 10. In this half-year course called Planning Transitions 12, they cover off the remaining learning outcomes from Planning 10, and we give them a percentage grade for Planning 10 retroactively back in grade 10. And they also complete their graduation transitions requirement. Students are required to submit to us a portfolio. Some grade 12 students find the graduation transitions portfolio to be annoying, and they would prefer not to do it. Unfortunately, it's a graduation requirement. So if they don't do it, they don't graduate. Some of your sons may have received an IP for their graduation transitions on their Term 2 report card. That means they haven't submitted their portfolio yet, and if they don't do it, they won't graduate. Usually, unfortunately, on June 28th, Ms. Pollock is running around chasing down the last 3 or 4 students who haven't submitted their portfolio and who aren't going to graduate because on June 28th we submit the information to the ministry. So if your son did graduation transitions in semester 1 and got completed A, then that's all good. If he has an IP, please harass him to get that in. If he's doing graduation transitions in semester 2 and doesn't appear all that enthusiastic about completing all the requirements, please help him to understand that he has to do it in order to graduate. So it's important. It's not good to have students kicked back on the did not graduate list. And my last piece, I really want to thank all of you for, I think for most of you, the 5 years that we've worked together. I thank you so much for all of your support. I've really enjoyed working with you. I've really enjoyed working with your sons, and I wish both you and your sons all the best for the future. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm back. I promise to keep it short, under 2 hours for sure. And I want to say a special hello to our parents out there who chose to watch it from the comfort of their homes with their wine glass in hand. In fact, I started thinking I could have done that. I'm a parent this year. I could have just Skyped in and sat at home. No, I'm just kidding. It's nice to see you, and I've known so many of you for so long, so it's extra special for me tonight. But I'll try to keep the emotion out of this. Here we are. After today, there'll be no more icebergs, none of my iceberg presentations, none of my little fancy little rocks. So I changed some of my pictures around, but there are some that I like and I've kept. It may have seemed like a mission impossible a year or 18 months ago, and I was saying to some parents and I were talking tonight about what a different conversation it is at this stage of the year, in this stage of your son's journeys, having a little bit more certainty about what's going to be happening in the future. In my mind, and thinking about where the grade 12s are at right now, I think the future looks really bright. The boys are blessed. They have such great lives, so much love, so much support at this school. And they may not all have received the news that they were hoping for, but we know for sure that none of our boys will be university homeless or planless next year. And there are very few students right now on our radar that we are really concerned about in terms of where they're actually at. So, but do feel free to share anything if you think that we need to attend to something that isn't looking as bright as it really should. It looked like this at one point. I found this slide recently for a grade 10 presentation, and I think sometimes for our boys, when we first started out, they were quite overwhelmed. I look back at the beginning of the year and feel that some of the decisions the boys were making were a little bit reckless, sometimes based on fear, sometimes fearless, but certainly a sense of being overwhelmed by uncertainty, not 100% sure of which direction to go. Then I started thinking tonight as I sat here, I kind of felt like this. All those carrots are all the grade 12s, like, how's this all going to happen? But it always does every year, and we're just in such a good place right now. It's a real time of celebration. I'm hoping from your lens that you have more clarity around what the future is going to look like for your boys. I think we're 99% of the way there. There are still some decisions to make, quite obviously. And obviously, with my parent hat on, concerns about how the year will pan out academically, how that English provincial will work out, but it's going to be fine. I love this picture. It's been a very pinnacle year, such a rite of passage, and we've just seen so much growth in the students in terms of self-actualization. Especially this week, I've noticed in terms of reflection, really looking at what they've been through, how they've spent the last few months, some regret, but still time to know that they have 7 weeks ahead of them to have a really good time and make memories and cherish the moments that lie and the events that are coming up. So I don't know why I'm so nervous tonight. I think I'm just so emotional. It's like, I can't believe there's only 7 weeks left. Where'd the time go? I wish it would slow down. Let's go to the mechanics of things. This number will actually get a little higher because it's based on Naviance accounts, and we do need to remind the boys a lot to update data in Naviance. But so far, we can safely say there's already 1,000 applications that have been processed this year. We've had over 70 visits from schools all around the world, and I said this last year, you've heard it before, but I do think it's one of the things that is just so beneficial to our students because they get to hear firsthand from the reps. They make those connections with the reps who will be reading their admissions files, and we get to know them really well, so we can pick up the phone anytime and call a university rep and ask a question. We really love having them come to our school. I added up the different schools that our students have applied to. 2 years ago, I think our ad in the paper said it was 140 different schools. Well, it was 180 as of today worldwide. And I think that speaks to the spirit of adventure that our students have, the fact that they're willing to branch out and not necessarily follow in the footsteps of others. We obviously, I'll show you in the next slides, the most popular schools. There are always those core schools, but we're seeing schools like University of Kentucky, Fordham University, just schools that very few students have applied to traditionally that are now becoming more and more popular, and that's super exciting because as soon as one St. George's student goes, we find that it builds momentum and we see more St. George's students looking at other schools. And that means that when they're looking at more schools, they're really taking the time to think about what school is really the best fit and looking at a school for the right reasons. Nearly half the grade this year, actually it was last year too, applied to American institutions. I'm just in the process of compiling the results. We're really happy with how that worked out, but we're just as happy with how the Canadian overseas applications worked out as well. And I just want to echo what Dr. Matthews said, that, you know, in our department, we do not focus on the Ivy League schools. We do not focus on any school. We really focus on the student and spend time getting to know your boy so that we can really help him find that school. I know it's such a cliche now, the best fit, but I think there are many best fits for each student. There isn't just one best fit, but it really is about finding that school that's going to value your son. Because I think as parents launching them out into the world, we just want them to be happy where they end up. We ask all our students to apply to Canadian universities, and we see lots of students choose Canadian universities over American acceptances as well. And the reason why it's not 100% is that there are a couple students that have chosen not to apply and are going immediately into a gap year and would like to apply to university next year. So that's their decision. I thought you might be interested in some of these little bit of data just to show you our most popular Canadian schools, which hasn't really changed over the last few years. We're still waiting on the results from UBC. They will roll out the majority of the decisions around April 14th. The Ontario schools have released their decisions other than McMaster, some University of Toronto programs, and there's still some students waiting on business commerce programs at Queen's, for example. So the first round of offers for business programs at Queen's would have gone out, and there'll be another round to come. So in any case, you can kind of see just where our students are heading or hoping to head. This doesn't necessarily mean where they're going. The matriculation results will be published in the summer. It's exciting to also think that there are students who have gone through the process this year but are still considering a gap year next year. I'm a huge fan of a gap year, and we just had Russell Smith speak to the 10s and 11s about the value of a gap year, and it's something that I think it's worthwhile to still think about at this stage. If you think your son would benefit from a gap year, we are more than happy to help him fill out, do the paperwork, and do the steps necessary to hold his offer for a year or even two. You can also hold scholarships and then embark on a gap year. So there's lots of options there if your son is kind of on the fence about whether or not he really wants to go. This is the probably most important slide right now, I think. What's going to happen next? So in Canada, just starting off with Canadian admissions, there is no sort of universal acceptance deadline. In the US, the national deadline to accept offers is May 1st. So if you have a son who's been waitlisted for a US school, he will not find out whether he gets off that waitlist until after May 1st, and sometimes into the summer months, meaning that to be strategic, you still need to accept another offer prior to that. It's really, really important, and I think this is something you can help your sons with, to read the conditions of their offers. Every offer, I shouldn't say every offer, most offers are conditional. Conditional upon graduation, conditional upon possibly a benchmark, such as Dr. Matthews referred to as the 80% Queen's Commerce asks for in English and math, for example. If it's a UK school, it's usually conditional upon getting 4s and 5s on the AP exams, or 85% in 5 grade 12 academic subjects. But I guess the important point here is just to make sure you really go through those letters for any university. Be really, really mindful of deadlines. I had one student already today come and say he'd missed the University of Toronto housing deadline, and it is problematic because it means that housing, for example, won't be guaranteed for him, and he might end up having to live off campus. So I think parents can really help a lot with this, especially if your son is undecided and is entertaining 3 schools right now, has all his offers on the table. You don't want to miss even just doing those housing applications just to play it safe for now. So there's still a lot to kind of think about. In terms of accepting offers, if your son has multiple Ontario offers, they know all this, by the way. We've sent all the information and gone through it with them. You can only hold one Ontario offer at a time. So there are some boys, for example, who are waiting to hear from McMaster Health Sciences. Those offers won't come in until May. The problem is every offer in Ontario has an expiry date. So if your son was accepted into Western for social sciences or arts, that offer will expire, I believe it's the 14th or 17th of April. And so the students start juggling their offers. Well, I'll accept Western for now in case I don't get into McMaster. When McMaster comes in, you go back into your account, you unaccept what you've already accepted, and you accept a new offer. So every offer has a different expiry date, so you have to manage that. So this is for Ontario schools. Beyond that, though, outside of Ontario, there still are the offers that you have to manage in terms of UBC, Eastern Canada. Again, it becomes a game, not a game, but a strategy to really make sure none of those deadlines pass you by. Once they do, the boys will see in their OUAC accounts, that's the Ontario University Application Centre where they did all of that each offer has an expiry and it suddenly vanishes, it just dissipates, offer is gone. So that's really sad when that happens. It doesn't happen very often, but we don't have in Canada, we've advocated for that before, a national acceptance deadline. So every school is different. So just a heads up on that, not to miss that. I've had this question many times, and perhaps you're wondering too, is it possible to hold multiple offers? You can't do it physically in Ontario. The system won't let you. You could, though, potentially hold an offer in Ontario and hold out another offer out west because the systems don't speak to each other. But I would ask that you're really mindful about that and you don't hold those offers for too long, because what happens is if you're holding two offers, you're actually taking away a chance from another student who might be on a wait list to get that offer. So right now, for example, there's a student who's not sure he wants to go to McGill, so he's accepted his Western offer, and he's going to think about it for a few more days and then make his decision. So you just have to be really careful not to miss those deadlines, be strategic, but also be, I guess I would call it ethical in terms of not putting deposits down on 2-3 schools just in case. That's tough to do as a parent. You're like, I'll just pay whatever it is so that for sure he's going. But I think we just can't do that. And actually, in terms of best practices for university counseling, is considered a no-no. But for now, while we're waiting, especially with things like McMaster that lets out its offers so late, you have to accept something and then wait and see. So we'll take questions at the end because that might be a bit confusing. Residence deposits as well. So now what happens is your son has his offers in front of him. Each university is corresponding with him separately through two portals, his own personal email and his university portal where he actually has an account. And in that university portal, there's always something called a to-do list. And you can look at that with them, and in that to-do list, you'll see right away that's asking for a final transcript, which will be sent at the end of June or July, depending on the school. But it'll also tell you, it'll tell you details about housing, when the deposit is due. They don't typically take credit cards. You have to wire money, transfer money to the school. So just a heads up on that. That could take a little bit longer through the bank. There'll be scholarship offers in the portal as well that you also have to be acknowledged at some point. So all of that has to be managed together, and sometimes it's a lot for the boys. So I think parents can play a really helpful role in this. With all the ups and downs, we always want to make room for celebration. So this is actually a plug for our Facebook page for you, because we hope you stay connected after this as well. As bribes, we were giving out Easter eggs to get students to like us on Facebook. We just launched this a couple of weeks ago. They're big eggs. That's why Nazarene has a ruler there. That's the only reason why you're probably wondering why are we measuring Easter eggs. And of course, the boys laughed at this. I won't go into details there. I'm being recorded, aren't I? Memorialized forever. Anyhow, you won't get Easter eggs for liking us, but it's a good way to stay connected. And we are starting now to send out reminders, not just through Naviance and the reader boards and email, but also now through Facebook. So there's information there you might find useful. And if you have younger children as well who are in 10th grade or higher, there might be some great things for you too, some good reading material for you. I've just got a few slides here that are meaningful. Your sons might have been involved in our Art Portfolio Day, which is a collaboration between the Art Department and University Counseling, where we brought in representatives from 9 different art schools in the US and Canada, and our students proudly displayed their art, grade 11s and 12s, and got feedback. So it's not just about getting noticed, but also about growth. How can they get better as artists? And we even had an old boy there as well. Josiah Sang on the left, perhaps you know him, a phenomenal artist, and that's Bennett Adamson. I don't know if the Adamsons are here today, but it's just great older students working with younger students. And again, we started this last year. It was called No Pie Until You Apply Day. The grade 11s serve the grade 12s pie. The grade 12s have to show proof that they've applied to a minimum of 3 schools. So just a little bit of fun. They want their pie. I mean, the boys are at the door, they're texting, they're emailing, am I going to get my pie? And the pies, of course, were beautiful. Oh, another art portfolio. There's more pies, which our catering staff make, and they're phenomenal. Oh, why do I have 2? Anyhow. Final things, the National Tracking Project. This is an initiative brought to St. George's by Dr. Matthews that he had at his former school. It was initiated by the Canadian Association of Independent Schools and involves over 42 private schools or independent schools across Canada. And what it really is an opportunity, I see it, for the boys to give back to St. George's. What we do is we ask the students to sign a document, which you will see and get a copy of, agreeing to release their university transcripts for the next 4 years. This stems out of the fact that we have a lot of qualitative data from students. They come back and they tell us all about their experiences, but we don't have quantitative data. And quantitative data is really, really useful for anybody, for our school, in terms of allowing us to really evaluate how we are doing. How are we preparing our St. George's graduates for post-secondary life? How are they going on to fare, not just in the classroom, but extracurricularly? Are the students dropping out, for example? Let me just kind of go through this a little bit. So the spirit of the philosophy under this is that we always want to continue to get better. The data that comes out of this is not just data for St. George's, but it's also St. George's data compared to other independent schools so that we can kind of compare ourselves and see how we're doing in light of national trends across the country. I think it's really important because I do believe that we are inquiry-minded, we have a growth mindset, we always want to be improving, and I'm sure in your experience as St. George's parents, you see that we're always trying to find ways to get better and to do more for your boys so that they have wonderful futures ahead of them. So I want to reassure you as a parent that the data is completely anonymous. What happens is that there's a form called transcript release survey that your son will sign, giving us permission to collect his transcript every year, and we pay for that. The only person who sees that transcript actually is Mrs. Morale. She bundles all the transcripts up and she sends them off to Innovative Research, which is a company that analyzes the data. But your son basically becomes a dot, so to speak, on a graph. There are no names. It's 100% confidential and private. So even when the results are published, there will never be a name attached to any of the data that is collected. So it is 100% a non-identifiable, I guess I'd say, quantitative bank of data. So something for you to think about. We will be sending home a sheet that explains how it works. It's completely voluntary. We are hopeful that we get a high rate of participation. We're one of the few schools that gets almost 100% participation rate. And again, it's just asking the boys to release a transcript, and they also fill out a little survey beforehand that kind of gives us a baseline of their experiences at St. George's, what they were involved in extracurricularly, were they a boarder, and then obviously their high school marks. That's it. So just something, just food for thought for now. Finally, it's coming to an end, from baby booties to St. George's shoes to them running away from us, and it's or towards us in some way, I don't know. Anyhow, I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to lose it, but we will dance and cheer our boys at Prize Day and at the graduation. I look really forward to connecting with you as a parent, and I leave you with this thought, and we'll be around after. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Christine. We normally don't allow parents to speak at this function, but we thought we'd make an exception this year. Didn't you do well? And no Kleenex needed. Just wait. I've got a few slides for you. Wow, time flies. Maybe not tonight, but think about the last 5 years. I was looking, and it was 59 months ago that you were probably here speaking to or listening to Mr. Collins, listening to me. It would have been Mr. Matthews as well, or Dr. Matthews, I think, was that one. As your sons were coming into the senior school, either joining the school for the first time for grade 8 or coming into grade 8. And can you believe that almost 5 years has passed since your little boys, some not so little, came to the school? They're now young men, poised and ready to move on to whatever life brings to them. It's quite an exciting position to be in. I've really enjoyed working with your boys. I'm able to look at some of them now and recognize them as they were in grade 8 when they first came in and I first worked with them. And it's been an absolute treat and pleasure to get to know them again, to reacquaint myself and see how that young boy has turned into such a fine young man. Each day, virtually each day, my day starts with a conversation with Brian Paczynski, who comes by and just chats. And he is not unique in the grade. It's a wonderful experience. Mr. Lawrence, when he stepped down from this position, said it was the best job in the world, in the school, and I agree with him fully. And that's been reaffirmed every day with your sons. There are, of course, a number of boys who've joined us since grade 8, coming in grade 9 and grade 10. And they have also really enriched the school with their experiences, with their perspectives. And we have a lot of young men who are we're going to be sad to see go in a few months' time. I am here to speak a little bit about the graduation evening, or the evening and the variety of events that go on. But let me start off with this. All right, so again, if your son is a lifer, he'll be in this photograph. And I think all but 3 of these boys are currently at the school still. And that's Miss Yen, who's retiring this year. So she is graduating with your sons and Mr. Lawrence, although Mr. Lawrence has taken 32 years to get through the senior school. Hope you're doing well. There's a lot that's going to be going on in the next little while. So we still have Arts Week, sporting events, club activities, fundraising activities, student-run assemblies, contemporary music night, country fair, AP exams, spring music concert, student art sales, music awards, provincial sports championships, athletic banquet, internal exams, provincial exams, graduation events, and much more. So, as Dr. Matthews said, keep your sons supported at the school. Remind them that there's a lot of work to do in the classroom especially, but also in and around the school. There's a very positive buzz around the school right now. Ms. Wester said we've had a few very, very good acceptances, and you could feel that energy coming through the grad class. There have also been some disappointments. So remind your sons as they're celebrating or consoling each other to look after each other, enjoy the celebrations, but also make sure that all the members of the grade are well supported in this really, really busy time. Before I begin, a big thank you through 2 people, through Sue Hector and Kelly Dong, to all the parents who are helping with the organization of the graduation year and the graduation events. It would not be possible for all these events to take place without the input of these fine parents. So thank you very much, Sue and Kelly in particular, but there's numerous other people. We'll see a few more names as we go on tonight. So the first event, it's scheduled for Sunday, May 24th. It's going to be hosted by the Jones family. It's the mother-son event. This is the 2nd year it's happened. It was brought in last year. Huge success last year. We will ask for RSVPs. There will be an email coming out with the invitation attached in the next little while, probably sort of mid to the end of April. The contact person there will be Nancy Jones, and there'll be information about how to contact her and respond to that. Here are some of the boys. This is, I think, a softball game at the beginning of the school year. The Dad Grad Breakfast, this is now in its 3rd year, and it has been a great success again. This occurs much, much closer to graduation, trying to tie in some of the parents who are coming back in from out of town. It's held at the school, McLean Hall. It's an early morning breakfast, so 7:30, so you have to get your sons up. That's your first challenge for the day. We do need to know, again, who is coming so we can have enough food for the boys and fathers. And I think the contact person there is going to be Lauren Morris, who will be organizing that. With regard to both these events, we don't mean them to be exclusive. There are a number of boys whose parents aren't close by, or they may not have a parent who can come to that event. So your sons are more than welcome to attend and bring somebody who is of importance to them, sort of as a surrogate parent for that event. There have been staff members who've been invited in the past. A lot of boarders will bring people from the boarding house, staff parents as well. So your sons need not remove themselves from those events if they would like to go. This is, again, sort of symbolic waving goodbye. Actually, I don't think that's what they were doing. Now we're getting right up into June. So there's a Georgian lunch, and this is held on Friday, June 12th. And this is the first of the big events on that day. So this is Prize Day. This is the graduation day. This is a chance for them to be welcomed into our school's alumni, the Georgians. It's just for the grads, and some of the Georgian executive will be there, and there's 1 or 2 teachers who will be invited as well. And Mr. Blackman's right here. I might get him to come up. Did you have a couple words you want to say, or are you just, sure, so I might call him up a little bit later, but he is the person who's going to be the contact point for your sons now as they move through post St. George's life. And I know I've been on a number of trips with Mr. Blackman. He has got a wonderful connection to the old boys, and that is growing and growing. He came into this position with many years of familiarity with the school because he's been involved in the boarding house for 7 years? 6 years. 6 years as well. There's Big Joe. I think that was opening day. He challenged boys to score a goal on him. He got quite a workout that day. Following the Georgian lunch, we have the prize day out at the senior school. There's about a half hour in between, and one of the things we've done the last couple of years is we'll pin a rose on the boys' lapels for the graduation. It's a wonderful moment, and it's a chance for, very often it's their advisors, sometimes it's the front office staff and the support staff who don't have that daily contact with the boys but want to wish them well. They will come in and pin the roses on the boys. It's a very, very touching moment. After that, they'll come out on the school fields under the big tent, and it's a very, very, again, exciting day. There's a rehearsal for this on the Thursday at 5 o'clock, so the event's on the Friday, so we do rehearse it on the Thursday and talk a little bit more about the boys and what's expected of them on the day. Tickets aren't necessary. That's always a question. How many tickets can we buy? You don't need to. It's a matter of just showing up. There is a section of seats reserved for grade 12 parents, for the graduating parents. But there are a lot of parents and there are a lot of family who want to come, so you are recommended to come in early. If you need any sort of special help with parking for senior relatives, Ms. Kudrick usually handles that. If there are questions, please contact me. And afterwards, there's a reception on the fields, a chance to sort of mingle, meet with the staff, say goodbye, have photographs taken, and that evening is left free, and that's a wonderful time for families to get together to celebrate that graduation. The following night at the banquet, we'll see, we don't have the room to have the great large families for all our grads. We just don't have the facility to host that. So if you have an extended family who want to wish your sons well as they graduate, the Friday evening is a really, really good time to book for that. These 3 gentlemen looking in earnest actually at a drone that was been flown by past Georgian Dr. Gordon Kruberg, who is from the class of '78, came up here to try and fly his drone on our field. I don't think it was terribly successful, but it was a fun day. On the Saturday now, we have a number of events that are going on. Jane Meikle has agreed to host the pre-banquet reception, so that's from 4 to 6 at her house, and we will have RSVPs to that when your boys are submitting their forms for graduation. I'll get to that in the next slide. That's open to grads, the dates, and parents, but we do want to get a sense of how many people we might be coming about a week beforehand, so we're asking your sons to deliver that information to us. And again, a big thank you to Mrs. Meikle for hosting that. Here are the grads dutifully attentive on assembly. Meeting once a week, we do this. Graduation banquet. It's at the Weston Bayshore Hotel this year, same as hosted last year. We, over the years, have flip-flopped back and forth between the convention center and the hotel. Both are wonderful venues. Each have their strengths and each have a couple of challenges. I like this one because it is very intimate and it keeps everybody in and close, although we don't have the same view as the convention center. It's a wonderful venue. Tickets, again, are not required, but your sons are asked to book the tables. Now, I'm going to make the booking forms available from my office, and I'll remind this to the boys because we're going to have a grade meeting on April 20th. Remind them to be available, and all that information transfer is done through the boys. So they will be coming home and figuring out which other boys they may want to sit with, which other families they may want to sit with at the banquet, who is coming from their family, any sort of special dietary requirements if they're bringing a date. So basically, your sons are responsible for working with somebody else. They will need your input. They'll need some help. As you help them define as who are the essential family members you may want to have come. Is it a really important aunt, a cousin, a grandparent, a brother or a sister? But we do need to keep those numbers a little bit lower for that night. There will be a formal invitation mailed, and that'll be mailed out in April. That is really just an announcement of the event, and it's a little bit of a souvenir. If you're scrapbookers, that will be part of it. It's formal or semi-formal. A lot of parents will go out and help their sons buy a tux. Every now and then we have a kilt. But also a really nice suit is also really good, and sometimes that's a bit more functional for the boys afterwards. And it's really up to the family to decide what's more appropriate at that level. Photographica, the same company that did the school graduation photos, they were here a few weeks ago to do some retakes and do some friendship photos. They will be at that event as well. They'll have a photo booth up, and so during the course of that evening, there'll be a chance to do family photographs, or whatever you like to do. The only thing we've kept out, we don't have roving photographers. We found them to be more of a distraction in the banquet hall, so Photographica will be set just outside in the lobby. But you're welcome at your table to pull out cameras, phones, whatever you want to use to record. This is also a view of No Pie Till You Apply Day, well received by the grads. Now, moving ahead to the Sunday on the grad barbecue, the grad weekend, the Hectors, the brave Hectors, are hosting the barbecue on the Sunday. It's around 1 o'clock, depends what time the boys wake up, and it goes to later. And it's not terribly well defined, but there is going to be some good food there. That is for grads only. Invitations, again, will be sent out, so you have addresses and all that. And again, the contact person for that will be Sue Hector. And again, responding so they have a sense of numbers so they can plan accordingly is really, really valuable. Now, there was a slide that was omitted. This is, I visited one of the advisor groups a little while ago. Here the guys are earnestly working through something. I can't remember what we did that day. The after-grad event, I think it's a really neat initiative of this year's grad organization parents that they moved the after-grad to well after grad. It used to be on the evening or the night of the grad banquet, and for the last couple of years, there's been a little bit of an intrusion into the grad banquet, because at 11 o'clock the boys would organize, and they would go off with their dates to the after function, and then the dance hall was empty. I think the last 2 years, it's been Dr. Matthews on his own at about 11:30, just sort of dancing on the floor, enjoying the solitude and the relative quiet, but it kind of takes the spirit out of a night, which is really a very, very fun evening. So we're going to keep the dancing going at the grad banquet, and we're going to keep it going as long as the DJ and the hotel will tolerate us, and we're going to do the after-grad about a week later. So June 19th, if you remember from Mr. Collins' slides, is the day of the English 12. So it keeps the boys nice and focused and studying and preparing, and then they can celebrate again that night. It's not organized by the school, so I plead ignorance to anything that may go on. It's for boys and dates only. The grads have been working very, very hard to fundraise over the course of the year. I think Narayan Das has sold anything possible that can be sold to the school, and if he continues, we're going to be listed on the stock exchange pretty soon. But it is an expensive evening, and the more the boys would like to do, the more expensive it becomes. So you may want to talk to, I guess, Kelly Dong if you wanted to sponsor one of the elements of that evening. The big thing about that is making sure it's organized, fun, and safe. And I guess maybe the priority there might be the reverse, so safe, then fun, and organized. Bake sales. I remember doing bake sales with your sons when they were in grade 8. Well, it came back, so the grade 12s this year did a bake sale to raise a little bit of funds for the hamper drive. So there's a couple of pictures of some of the grads working with some of the grade 8s. There's a young Palmer in that picture, I see. And Dr. Matthews alluded to this. This is a very serious condition that afflicts some of our boys. It also afflicts some of our staff. We can't do much about the staff, but we can certainly do a lot to help the boys. The big thing here is we need to keep your boys focused. The boys who are active and engaged in the third term and co-curriculars are usually the ones who will stay active and engaged in the classroom as well. So if your son is not as involved in the co-curriculars this term as he has been for the last couple of terms, keep a close eye on him, right? Needle him a little bit, bug him a little bit to make sure he's doing his work. If you have any questions or concerns, call me, call his advisor, call his university counselor to make sure he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. We will call you. I've had about I'd say a half a dozen boys through my office each day of the last week before school broke, talking to boys about letting up too soon, you know, relaxing, taking the foot off the pedal a little bit too soon, particularly in academics. So they're very responsive. They do like the heads up, but there are a few boys who will relax too much, and we need to keep that to a minimum, and we want to make sure that they don't cut off opportunities. The only known cure is the phenomenon known as graduation. There is another cure, and that is just a good cohesive effort from parents, from staff, and the boys supporting each other and making sure they get through the last 2.5 months well. This is Fraser. This was, he's actually been followed by the National Men's Sevens team. That was a introduction for the Sevens side that's coming to Vancouver in the next little while. The Georgians, and I'm going to ask Mr. Blackman to come up a little bit and just say one or two things about the Georgians. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Blackman.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you very much for attending. I'll be brief. As your sons leave St. George's, they join the ranks of the Georgians, a phenomenal network around the world. You'll see some of the places that I get to visit at times and that events are held, whether I'm not there. It's a self-involved opportunity for the boys. They can be as involved as they want, and they can be here on a regular basis involved in Dragon's Lair or as a guest speaker on Careers Day or any number of events. They can also use the network to support their activities going on at university or as they launch their careers. There's a number of aspects to it. On Prize Day, during the grad luncheon, when I and a number of the old boys host your sons to lunch, we'll explain those details. There's a wonderful element to the school website that details everything we're doing, how to contact my office, how to contact me, and how I work to stay in contact with your sons and keep them connected to the school. It's a hugely important part of the value of the education your sons are getting and the value that the school offers back to you as a family and to them as they start their careers at university and on into the business world. I'll hang around tonight if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer. And look forward to welcoming your sons to the Georgians. As they cross the stage, I'll get to shake their hand and present them with a tie and really begin that formal relationship, which has already started with the rugby refereeing and the house parenting and everything else. So congratulations, and I'm looking forward to them joining my team.
Thank you, Mr. Blackman. Almost done. See, almost done. If there's been a lot of information coming out, and if most of this slipped past you, Mr. Hesketh is going to have this uploaded to the site probably the next day or so, and all the PowerPoint slides, Mr. Collins, Ms. Wessler's, and mine will also be on the school website. There'll be a link there, again, within the next couple of days. It may be after the long weekend, but it'll be up soon, so you can relax and not worry about having to remember all of these details. I should have told you that at the beginning, shouldn't I? I'm sorry. If you can't wait to see, then you can always just email me, and I'm happy to send some of this. I don't think I can send this all in one big file. It's massive, but I can send enough to clog up our email system for a day or two. One last thing. Last couple of years, the Legacy Fund has been established. I'm not a great fundraiser, but I've been asked to talk about this. We need, or the school advancement needs about $25,000. If that number is reached, then there's a fund that will be set up as the Legacy Fund for the 2015 graduation class, which means boys can come back and contribute as they're able and as they're interested over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years, right? And that fund will be named in their name in perpetuity. So it's something to consider if you're interested. If you have any questions, please contact Adrienne Davidson, and her email is up there. It's also available through the school website. And that is it. Now, we're just over an hour, I think. I'm going to blame Mr. Hesketh because he was late coming. If there are any broad questions, we can try to field those now. If not, I believe the university counselors will be here afterwards. Mr. Collins is still here. If you have any particular questions, they'll be happy to answer those, but probably over a cup of coffee outside. Are there any general questions, though, before we break? I really can't see any hands, so you have to wave and yell, please. Hello. Oh, hello, yes.
Is there any flexibility around the son and father breakfast? Because the rowing boys are all...
The challenge we've had, the question for the people online, is there any flexibility about the date? because we do lose some boys. The challenge is at that time of the year, having a date that is close enough to graduation that we know that we're going to have more parents in town, but also not conflicting with a number of other possible events. And we can discuss it again with the graduation committee of parents, but moving it to another date is will not allow for some of our parents who live at distance to get there. So there's always going to be a compromise. We can look at other dates, but my guess is another date would compromise another group of students. So I'll put that to Kelly Dong and the graduation parents. We do have some flexibility right now, but I'm not sure if we can find a date that would be any better. It might be better for the rowers, but it might be worse for somebody else. I apologize for that. Are there any other questions? Yes, there's a question here.
I think you said AP exams are in May, and there's no internal exam in June for the AP courses, but AP exams are optional, is that right?
Yes.
So if they don't take an AP exam, what happens?
So the question here again is, if your son is in an AP course and he's not writing the AP exam, and there's no internal exam, what happens in those remaining, I guess there are about 7 classes. I can't speak for other teachers of AP courses, but in the course I teach, we do have about 7 classes after the AP exam is written for economics. And I use that time to finish up some of the material where the boys still have some learning to do. They're not going to be assessed on it, but it's still worth learning. A lot of the boys are taking a lot of these AP courses because they're going to pursue them further at university, and they see the relevance in that. And in my class, that's usually about 3 more lessons. What I then do in my class is I bring in a couple of friends of mine as guest speakers in my course of economics. They talk about sort of the theory behind business but don't really know about business. So I'll bring 2 or 3 friends who are in the business world or teach at business schools, and they'll come in and do some work. We also do some case studies. We do role play. We do a number of things that are related to the course to fill in those. It may not be following the AP curriculum anymore if that's finished, but there's still lots of learning that could be done in the classroom. And I would assume that most AP courses follow the same pattern. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Question about the post-graduation tracking. Once the transcript data is entered and becomes anonymous, what happens to that original data set, the actual transcript? Where does that go? What happens?
I'm not sure, but I believe that either Christine Wessler or Nazreen could probably answer that, maybe out by coffee. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Was there another question? I can't see or hear anybody, so I'm going to say, let's enjoy a little bit of coffee, some juice, and some cookies outside. Thank you very, very much, and congratulations on completing your high school once again. Thank you.